Right, morning everyone. It's 11:30 and welcome back to another one of our online calls with our stocks. Today we've got Matt Swart to talk about Napsers and Prosus. I think it'll be probably quite interesting in terms of the Q&A given the Chinese stimulus and how the Chinese stock market is up sort of close to 25% on the last week or so. So I see a bit of it's reversing today. Understandably, given the exact levels that it's flown up. But over to Matt to talk about Naspers. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Vaughan, and thanks everyone for dialing in. Today we're going to chat about a couple of things. But yeah, Naspers and Prosus only update, or they only release semi-annual results. So there've only been a few events since we last reported on both companies. Number one, we've got a new Naspers and Prosus CEO. He was appointed and we did discuss him last time, but he officially started in July. And then the CFO has announced that he'll be retiring at the end of November, and they are currently searching for a successor. And then just last week, there was a report by Bloomberg saying that Prosus had sold down its entire stake in Trip.com. More on that later, but we don't think that they've sold the entire stake. In terms of updates, we've made intrinsic value changes to both companies, and that's been driven by a higher Tencent market value, as well as a higher market value of the listed assets, higher multiples of the unlisted assets, and then, of course, the share repurchases. The discount to net asset value is unchanged, and then our recommendation is also unchanged with a hold for both. So this is just the share price of Trip.com. So Bloomberg reported that Prosus sold its entire stake for about $743 million. Was apparently done in a block trade of 14.5 million shares at 51.40, and that's the black line in this chart. However, that doesn't line up with our calculations. We know that they've got about a 5.6% stake in Trip.com, and that amount only amounts up to 2.2%. So in any event, it doesn't make a meaningful difference to our valuation. And this chart might show you why. So this graph shows the value of the ownership that Prosus has got in the listed assets. Obviously, Tencent is the biggest one, and their stake is worth about $125 billion. Trip.com, on the other hand, is about 1.7. That's the 5.6% stake. And as a percent of our net asset value for Prosus, Trip.com is only about 1%. So whether that's held in shares or cash makes hardly any difference to our valuation. And given that there's not been any official reporting from Prosus or Trip.com, we're not making any adjustments in the meantime. There's a performance of Naspers, Prosus, and Tencent over the last 3 months, and there's been a massive increase in Chinese stocks over the last week or so because of the stimulus package that was announced, and that's caused a rally in the East, and that's benefiting Naspers and Prosus. Obviously, this has got a much bigger impact on the valuation than the smaller businesses. These are the smaller businesses, just the listed ones. They've also had a good 3 months, and most of the listed assets are up between 10 and 70%. And I think a lot of that probably comes from the start of the rate cutting cycle, which is normally good for tech stocks. The discount to NAV, that's remains at similar levels to since when we last reported. For Prosus, it's about 33, 34%. Napsers is about 38%. And it's going to be interesting to see what plans the new CEO has got for trying to close this discount over time. In the meantime, we expect the share repurchases to continue. And then, yeah, just comments on management. I don't really have, much to add other than the new CEO. He's a successful entrepreneur. He was involved in growing iFood, so he's got a track record of growing that business into profitability, and we would expect that him to apply that to the rest of the e-commerce portfolio. And there's a big portion in food delivery. And then on the CFO side, not sure who they'll appoint. They're currently looking for someone, but I think overall, management's historically been criticized in the past for poor capital allocation and taking some very complicated attempts at trying to close this discount over time that have been also quite expensive. So I think some fresh blood in top managements would be good, and it's probably needed. And then on our valuation, so the drivers that I've mentioned have caused us to increase the intrinsic value a bit. The repurchases have the effect of decreasing the shares outstanding, so that also provides an uplift to the price. Our intrinsic value for Prosus is about 740 and Napsers 3,840. And now I'll hand over to Sean for the technicals.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, you can see the chart there of Napsers is until yesterday's close again. So it shows the share price has broken above that previous all-time high at the 4,237 Rand level. Having traded in a sideways or trendless market for almost 4 years, so this is the first move out of that sideways market on the top side. So in the short term, as you can see, also the share price has gapped up. This was yesterday. Has gapped up strongly to move above it, or moving to uncharted territory, is what I would call it. Today, I see it has pulled back slightly. The last I saw was at about 0.47% back, but it is pulling back. So we have to wait and see if that gap is closed on some profit taking anytime soon. But saying that, also the share price is trading far above all its moving averages. It's 20, it's 50-day, and it's 200-day moving averages. So the long-term and the medium-term trends are all or both are bullish. At the bottom there, you can see what the MACD indicator, it's an oscillator, trading in overbought territory above that zero line and far above its trigger line, but with no clear bearish signals yet. And as Matt said, now you can see there on the chart where I've got the intrinsic value. So it's trading far above its intrinsic value, but we still got a whole recommendation on it. Go to the next one. Okay, there's a Prosus, very similar chart to that of Napsers. It's also recently broken strongly above its resistance. That resistance at the 720 level. Haven't moved broadly sideways in a trendless range since about May this year. You can also see there it's trading far above its moving averages and above its intrinsic value. You can see where the intrinsic value is about 740. And again, we also got, as Matt said, we've got a whole recommendation on Prosus. The all-time high for Prosus, however, is way up, much higher at 975, and that was way back in January 2021. So still got way off that. In the short term, very similar to Napsers, the share price has gapped higher, and you also have to wait and see whether this gap closes on some profit taking. Today I saw it was at one point down 0.53%, so there could be some profit taking place soon. The MACD indicator, very similar to Napsers, also trading in overbought territory, and far above its trigger line, and again with no clear bearish signals yet. Yeah, so that's how I see it.
Great. Thanks very much, Sean. Thanks, Matt. Are there any questions for Sean and Matt on this? I'm having a look in the chat if you want to put some questions in the chat, or you just want to raise your hand so we can see who it is and then ask some questions. Okay, it seems pretty clear. Okay, everyone, thanks very much for your time. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Sean. And we look forward to chatting to you next week on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye then.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.